Good evening, everyone. My name is Maia Berthier, and today I'm going to be discussing my research with Dr. Emily Naylor on the locomotion of the Atlantic mudskipper. So to start off, you're probably wondering, what is an Atlantic mudskipper? So mudskippers themselves are over 30 species of amphibious air-breathing fishes. The one I researched was the Atlantic mudskipper, which resides primarily on the West African coast. As you can see in the photo, they are capable of walking on sand and muddy terrestrial surfaces, unlike many other fish. So many aquatic fishes move their pectoral fins like this back and forth to swim successfully. The mudskipper, though, as you can see in the image on the left-hand side, uses a technique called crutching while they are on land, where they vault their bodies over their pectoral, which are the outside fins, and they land on the pelvic inside fins. So as of late, research on mudskipper locomotion was only conducted on solid level substrates similar to those used in clinical settings. So this meant that research did not necessarily determine how mudskippers deal with naturally occurring surfaces and their actual environments. So from this knowledge, the question we decided to investigate is, how do Atlantic mudskippers crutch in heterogeneous conditions, such as those mimicking their natural environments? So to conduct our measurements, we used high-speed camera footage of 6 different mudskippers on 9 treatments of varying surface and incline. This means we created combinations of the 0, 10, and 20 degree inclines with the mud, sand, and shelf liner surfaces. So to measure this footage, my mentor selected the frame with the biggest fin spread, and I measured from the 3rd to the 14th ray of the measurement. So our predictions. As far as our predictions went, we expected that on soft surfaces, like the thick mud and fine sand, there would be increased fin spread in comparison to a solid surface. This is in a similar way to how snowshoes help to minimize sinking, as they cover a greater surface area than just feet alone. You kind of can imagine that, like, while they're on the sand or the compliant substrate, they sink less if they spread out more. So alternatively, it is possible that there would be less fin spread on fine sand specifically to eliminate excess sticking of sand grain on its fins. So those were the 2 primary conclusions we drew before our research was conducted. So I know this looks like a lot, but what you're seeing here is all of the significant relationships from our results. So to conduct this, as I mentioned before, we took the measurements and then we placed them into an Excel, which was then analyzed using a software called RStudio, which is a coding software that allowed us to interpret the results and create this graph. So as you can tell on the right-hand side, the fin spread for the mud, which is the orange, is higher than both the fine sand and the shelf liner. We also notice that on the far left, the mudskippers on fine sand have the greatest fin spread on the incline of 0 degrees. Another thing that is kind of important to point out is the fact that fin spread increased at 20 degrees of all of the shelf liner trials, which suggests that mudskippers might also spread their fins to generate more friction in order to overcome the effect of gravity and avoid slipping. Sorry, I don't know why it's glitching. Oh, hang on. There we go. So from our predictions, we found that the expectation of wider fin spread on softer substrates was consistent with our results. But however, the alternative hypothesis regarding less fine fin spread sand was inconsistent with the findings. Studying locomotor behavior and biomechanics under conditions encountered in the wild is essential for improving our understanding of an animal's evolution and technology. So an important application of this research is that a deeper knowledge of their locomotor behavior and habitat could help researchers determine and anticipate whether environmental changes caused by natural phenomena result in effects such as population decline or even extinction. So by investigating mudskipper pectoral fin contact on surfaces that replicate those found in the wild, my project highlights a potentially adaptive strategy for coping with challenging surfaces and provides important perspectives for future work on these fishes. So my experience with Talaria. So as you can see, this subject is kind of daunting. This was my first experience with actual hands-on research, so I was very nervous going in, but my mentor was extremely helpful and super down to earth, and she made this complex subject super digestible for me, a 17-year-old girl that had no knowledge of RStudio or any other online software. So her advice and insight was integral to my success in the project and made me reconsider this field as a whole, just because my personal focus is more on environmental science, but this biomechanics aspect actually pulled me much closer to the field of biology and its intersection with environmental science and how important that is. So probably the most difficult part of the process was the data analysis, since I never used anything like that before, but Dr. Naylor helped me get accustomed to it really well. And overall, it's been such a fruitful learning experience for me just to conduct this research, and kind of has been a really good, I guess, insight on what I want to do in the future. I can see myself continuing to do this in my upcoming years, hopefully through college and my career. So thank you everyone for listening. I appreciate you. If you have any questions, let me know.